Did you know that in America, you can drive through a red light, have no more than 6 vibrators in your bedside table, and it's prohibited to tie your alligator to a fire hydrant? Well, I'll tell you about the craziest and strangest laws that exist in different states of America, and in the end, you'll find out why police officers always touch the car when checking documents. Let's start with sunny California, where a speed limit was set for driverless cars no more than 60 miles an hour. Seems like it's for Tesla lovers, and remember, here you can get fined for attempting to wash your car with old underwear. After all, you should love your car, not wipe it with old panties. Meanwhile, in Alabama, there's a law that says, do not operate a vehicle with your eyes closed. Who would have thought that would become a legislative matter? But apparently, there were precedents. What about personal space? Indeed, in the USA, there are strict laws protecting women's rights to personal space, especially in a big city like New York. Even staring at a woman on the street is illegal, and a fine is imposed if a woman feels you've lingered your gaze on her excessively. Furthermore, there is another side to the coin. There's always a risk of getting charged with harassment, even if your intention was friendly. For instance, in an elevator, in the midst of a conversation with a stranger, you might unintentionally invade their personal space if they suddenly get tired of chatting. Or, out of politeness, you decide to break an awkward silence, but instead of gratitude, you feel legal prosecution and a fine. In the state of Indiana, there is also an unusual law. It's absolutely forbidden to intoxicate fish. Can you imagine? And how do fish fight depression then? How to combat mortality? Right, forbid it! In the state of Florida, there is actually a law that prohibits dying while getting a perm. There is even a fine for such a ridiculous death. It's hard to understand the logic of such a law from a common-sense perspective. Perhaps its appearance is connected to a desire to prevent accidents or fires caused by the chemicals used in perms. In Kentucky, there is an unusual rule. A woman cannot walk on the highway in a swimsuit without the accompaniment of 2 police officers or without a shovel in hand. But here's the riddle. Why shovels? Exceptions are women under 40 or weighing more than 200 pounds. Well, even I'm puzzled here. In the American city of Joliet, women have quite strict shopping restrictions. Imagine trying on more than 6 dresses in a store could land a fashionista behind bars. I'm not joking, apparently there's a viewpoint here on the effective use of the family budget. Perhaps it's a way to encourage more economical consumption. After all, the husband's money is better spent on something more important like a PlayStation? What do you think about that? In Alabama and Jasper County, there is a rather severe law. A husband has the right to beat his wife with a stick, but only if the diameter of this stick does not exceed the diameter of his own. No, big toe! In Los Angeles, California, husbands can use belts to beat their wives, but only if the width of the belt does not exceed 5 inches. Otherwise, they need consent from their better halves. But in Arkansas, it doesn't matter so much what the husband beats his wife with. The main thing is that it happens no more than once a month. I can just imagine the husband comes home happy from work, kicks the door open shouting, "Guess what day it is today?" But in Arizona, they decided to delve even deeper into personal lives. So by law, it is forbidden to have more than 6 such toys and 2 identical items of this kind. It seems like a pretty strange and intrusive rule that tries to regulate even such aspects as people's preferences. If authorities find out you have a large number of such toys or several identical ones, you could be declared a distributor of indecency and fined. Well, at least, they haven't introduced quads of punishers yet. In the city of St. Louis, there is also a strange law. Firefighters are prohibited from rescuing women from fires or in any way aiding their rescue, whether they're naked or dressed in a robe or nightshirt. It seems they fear that firefighters might violate a woman's gaze in the smoke. First, you have to wrap her up, and then you can rescue her. Apparently, it doesn't matter how alive she will be at that moment. Unusual laws are in effect in the state of Connecticut. Husbands are strictly forbidden to kiss their wives on Sundays. I don't know how this is related to religious traditions or just a break from the usual cares, but those are the rules. And it's also strictly forbidden for anyone to engage in witchcraft there, especially dog training. Yes, here, such training is considered bewitching the poor dog. It doesn't matter who you are, husband or wife, how old you are, or what your marital status is. Can you imagine, even if a police officer is training his service dog according to the law, he should go turn himself in for witchcraft? Unusual, isn't it? But I'm just getting started. In the city of Moline, Illinois, there's an interesting law. Skating on the ice of the city pond from June 1st to August 31st incurs a fine. But it's curious. What kind of an idiot in swim trunks and skates would want to skate on ice in such heat? They must have been guided by something, just not clear by what. In the homeland of Texas Rangers, there's a strange law. You can't take more than 3 sips of beer while standing. Apparently, this is done to prevent accidental falls and injuries. Caring, isn't it? And since we have touched on beer, in Houston, Texas, selling this hoppy beverage after midnight on Sunday is prohibited. But here's the mystery. On Mondays, it's allowed at any time. You come on Sunday after midnight to the store and claim that it's already Monday. In Louisiana, it's seriously forbidden to rob banks. And during such robberies, it's considered a particularly serious crime if you shot the cashier with a water pistol. Well, rightly so. You wouldn't want to wet the money. Yes, indeed, in some states of the USA, there is such a practice where local drivers are allowed to turn on a red traffic light under certain conditions. For example, it's allowed to turn right on red if the driver ensures that there are no other vehicles or pedestrians he could obstruct with his maneuver. As for turning left on red, it's only allowed if there is a special sign allowing such a maneuver and provided there's no oncoming traffic for which the green light is on. No wonder accidents constantly happen at such intersections because this rule doesn't apply in all states and people love to travel. But what to do if you get into a car accident in America? Where to turn for help? Where to find a competent lawyer? How to get compensation if you don't have insurance? DTPI America Company helped its clients get compensation of $21 million. Here, you'll definitely get answers to all your questions, link in the description. In the town of Racine, Wisconsin, there is an interesting law. You can't wake sleeping firefighters. Apparently, this is to ensure they're always well rested and ready for action in case of a fire. And in Allentown, Pennsylvania, there's another curious rule. All fire hydrants should be checked an hour before a fire. Probably to ensure the hydrants are always in good condition, because you never know when a fire might start. But still, it sounds somewhat strange, don't you agree? In the states of Vermont and West Virginia, there's an interesting prohibition. Oh, whistling underwater. Strange, isn't it? Okay, maybe the fish there are jumpy and whistling seems threatening to them, but here's the question, who even came up with checking if people whistle underwater? In West Virginia and Clawson, Michigan, there are quite strange laws regarding bestiality. In West Virginia, men are allowed for such activities with animals weighing no more than 40 pounds, and in Clawson, you can do it with pigs, cows, horses, goats, and chickens, but only if you own them. Farmers here smile cunningly. In the American city of Poland, police officers are allowed to bite a dog if necessary to make it stop barking. It seems like a pretty strange way to maintain order, especially if you imagine the shock of the poor dog. But perhaps, in some situations, it may be the only way to protect oneself or others from the aggressive behavior of the animal. In Indiana, from October to March every year, it is strictly forbidden to take a bath. It seems like a pretty strange rule, but it's probably related to some climatic or cultural peculiarities. Luckily, nobody canceled showers. In California, animals are prohibited from mating within 1,640 feet of schools, churches, and fast food restaurants. This sounds like a strange prohibition, but its purpose is probably to maintain peace and safety in public places. In Oklahoma, dogs gathering in a group of 3 or more must obtain written permission from the mayor beforehand. Apparently, this is a precautionary measure to avoid possible incidents or disturbances. And in Kenilworth, Illinois, roosters must stay 300 feet away from residential buildings to crow, while a hen is allowed to crow from a distance of 200 feet. Perhaps this is done to reduce noise in residential areas? How do they punish violators? It's frightening to even think about it. At the initiative of then-Governor George Bush Jr., Texas adopted a law about 10 years ago requiring a criminal to orally or in writing warn the victim about the planned crime at least 24 hours before committing it. This warning must describe the planned crime. Convenient, isn't it? In the city of Chico, California, there's a rather curious prohibition: detonating nuclear devices within the city limits. And for this, a fine of $500 is imposed. But interestingly, why only within the city limits? But let's move on. In Pennsylvania, drivers of vehicles traveling on rural roads at night are required to stop every mile, release a signal rocket, and then wait 10 minutes to ensure that there are no domestic animals or livestock on the road. Sometimes you might have to travel for a couple of days from one farm to another. Sometimes, strange laws also occur in education. In Indiana, they decided that remembering the number pi is unrealistic. A digit, then a comma, and then again digits? Oh my god, that's horror! Therefore, within the state it equals to 4, not 3.1415. It sounds like a joke, doesn't it? But in reality, it's an unconventional approach to mathematics. In Nebraska and Oklahoma, where there are hardly any lakes, it's forbidden to catch whales. It seems like a very strange rule considering the absence of whales in these areas. But granting local lawmakers permission to use hallucinogens and other drug looks, to say the least, strange, but understandable enough when it comes to banning whale hunting. In Pennsylvania, drivers encountering horse-drawn vehicles are faced with an unusual rule. They must cover their cars with a blanket, and if the horse owner still believes that his animal is scared of the car owner must dismantle it and hide the parts in the bushes. This seems like quite an extreme measure, probably aimed at ensuring safety for all road users. But still, it's worth admitting that this is one of the strangest rules on the roads. According to the law of the state of Tennessee, women are completely forbidden from driving a car. But surprisingly, there is a way out. You can take the risk and put her behind the wheel, but only on the condition that a man runs ahead of the car, waving red flags to warn potential suicides, pedestrians and other drivers about the looming danger over their lives. In the USA, refusing to pay a medical bill is considered a serious crime, especially when it comes to a child's treatment. In the state of Indiana, the court may acquit you of paying the bill if you can prove that you prayed for the child's health. Perhaps this is one way to mitigate punishment in case of financial difficulties. But overall, the situation with paying medical bills in the USA remains complex and raises many questions about the accessibility of medical care. When walking your personal crocodile in Louisiana, be careful when choosing a parking spot. For example, if you need to go into a store where alligators are not allowed, and you want to tie up your pet on the street, make sure what you tie it to. After all, it's strictly forbidden to tie crocodiles to fire hydrants in Louisiana. This is a funny rule, probably intended to ensure the safety of bystanders and prevent possible accidents. And as promised, a scene everyone has seen in the movies, when a police officer taps the car before speaking to the driver. Why do they do this? This approach by patrol officers to stop vehicles is really important in the context of police safety on the road. Unfortunately, situations where offenders take aggressive actions against officers are not uncommon, and protecting police officers becomes a priority. Running a hand over the trunk or rear lights of the car allows the police officer to leave fingerprints on the surface of the car. In case of an emergency situation, for example if the driver tries to attack the officer, these fingerprints can serve as important evidence that a specific police officer stopped this particular car. This can be a crucial piece of evidence for the court and help clarify the circumstances of the incident. As you can see, there are plenty of strange laws, but even more surprising is that not all of them have a clear context and seem to be made up in a drunken stupor. And that's all, friends. Be sure to subscribe to my channel and thank you for watching.